Welcome to Cat Mama Tarot and to this pick a card reading. This is a pick a card reading for the upcoming eclipse season, which in the US is starting this Wednesday, August 12th, and that's going to be a solar eclipse in Leo, and then it's ending with a lunar eclipse in Pisces at the end of the month on the 27th or 28th, depending on your location. And if you're not in the US, go ahead and make the necessary adjustments to that timing. For each pile, we're going to do a 5-card spread with 5 oracle cards, each one representing a different position. And then we're going to clarify each of those with the tarot. The piles are in order from left to right, 1, 2, and 3. Feel free to pick more than one if you're drawn to more than one. And timestamps along with the names of the decks I'm using will be below in the description box. With that, enjoy the readings and I will see you there. Hello, pile 1. If you chose the Field Tarot deck, then this is your pile, or at least one of your piles that you're going to be joining me for. So let's get started with our oracle cards. Our first position is what to reflect on this Ori. I don't even know what I was about to say. I was thinking the word orient. What to reflect on to orient yourself to this eclipse season. That is really interesting. That is not in the description of this spread. So I guess that's part of the message. What can you reflect on that's going to help orient you in the direction that you want to be moving in during this eclipse season? Let's take a card. Let's take a look. I'm stumbling over my words. So bear with me here. Okay. So what you want to be reflecting on this eclipse season, pile 1, is flow. That's a great thing to reflect on, especially during an eclipse season. So how can you flow with what is? I feel like in order to be able to flow, it requires acceptance. In some cases, it requires radical acceptance because some things are harder to accept than others, right? So part of us feels like things maybe should be different, or if they could only be different, this kind of things. So, so you're really being encouraged, and I love, this isn't showing an eclipsed moon, but I love that there's a big old moon in that image here. So flow is like what you can be reflecting on this eclipse season is how best can you be in flow with what is, and finding your flow as well, right? What kinds of things can you be spending your time and energy on that are going to put you into that flow state, right? That state where you just kind of lose track of time because you're just in that flow of creativity or whatever it is that that you're doing. So we'll clarify. I'm going to pull all the cards first and then we'll go ahead and clarify each one a bit. So our next position is how to receive downloads, how to receive the wisdom that wants to find you at this time. And we've got the Star Ancestor. Follow the voice of your soul. Well, that's pretty straightforward, isn't it? So in order to be able to follow the voice of your soul, it's really important to find time for yourself, find space for yourself to quiet the noise around you, to quiet your mind, and to create that space and that peace that's going to be able to, that's going to enable the voice of your soul to speak to you, right? To come through. So creating the kind of space that's needed, that kind of peaceful, meditative space that's needed to be able to hear the voice of your soul, and then following what the guidance is of your soul. That is, okay, sorry, I'm having technological difficulties here. We're so high-tech here at Cat Mama Tarot. Hopefully someday we will be a little bit more high-tech, but for now we're pretty low-tech, but hopefully that's okay with you and the messages are worth it. All right, so how to receive those downloads, how to receive that wisdom is following the voice of your soul. So creating that space to be able to actually hear the voice of your soul is part of that equation. The next position is how to look after yourself, right? So it's really important to look after yourself and take care of yourself so that you are able to show up when needed or when called. And so the message here is to claim your independence, right? So looking after yourself requires claiming your independence, prioritizing yourself sometimes, right? Putting yourself first, your needs, your wants, your desires, versus putting them on the back burner, right? Doing what it is that you feel called to do, doing what it is that you feel pulled to do in the moment, and, you know, allowing that space for yourself, claiming your independence in a way that allows you to take care of yourself, to look out for yourself, to look after yourself, right? You know, maybe that means like, okay, like I'm gonna put my work aside here so that I can take a spa day. Or I'm gonna, you know, ask my partner to watch the kids so I can take a walk. You know, whatever, you know, finding those moments of independence, those stretches of time for just what is needed for you is really important as a means for looking after yourself during this eclipse season. All right, what needs to change is have faith in your dreams. Waxing crescent moon here. So perhaps you haven't really been feeling like your dreams are possible, right? Especially if, you know, if you're needing to claim your independence from something, if you're kind of wrapped up in other things that are about other people all the time, prioritizing others all the time, prioritizing things other than yourself and your dreams all the time, it does make it hard to have faith in your dreams because there's so many things in the way. So what needs to change is really for you to be focusing on what it is that you want. What are you, like, if you could have anything you wanted, what would that be? What are your dreams, right? And key to that as well, not only just saying what are my dreams, but to believe that they are possible, right? If you don't believe that your dreams are possible, if you don't have faith in your dreams, it makes them a lot harder to realize, right? Okay, and finally, how to transform. We've got Sky Bridge, possibility for union. Okay, and that's a number, 47 breaks down to an 11. I haven't been noticing the numbers too much. Well, we had a 13 that breaks down to a 4, but 47 breaks down to 11. And you can see on this card that it really, there is a portal here, right? There is a portal to this new possibility for union. And so that could really be a variety of types of unions, right? It can be union with any kind of person, right? It can be romantic, it can be with family, it can be with friends, it can be, you know, a reunion or a new union. It can be uniting you with that dream, right? I mean, when I'm looking at this image, it's kind of like a bridge to your dream that connects you, it's a possibility for union with the dreams, right? That comes from having that faith and creating that time and space and getting into the flow and all the things we've been talking about, listening to the voice of your soul, right? All of these things can culminate in this union with your dream. And that could be union with another person, with a partner, with a business partner, with a business. It can be really any kind of union that resonates for you. That's so beautiful. Okay, let's get some clarification with some tarot here. Like I said, we are using the Fields Tarot deck for this pile. All right, so we've got what to reflect on, and we've started with our flow oracle cards. So what else do we need to know for pile 1 about flow and reflecting on flow? How can they reflect on flow? Why should they reflect on flow? What else can you tell us, please, for pile 1? Strength, the Lovers, determination, and the Star. Oh, with the World at the bottom of the deck. It's in reverse, which usually I don't really focus on reversals because sometimes they just kind of become part of the message. It just depends on what comes, but I'll just note that. So in order to get into flow, right, and what we were talking about before with the need for radical acceptance, there's a need for strength. There's a need for self-awareness. There's a need to quiet the voices inside that create, conflict, or sometimes we think about the Strength card as taming the beasts within, right? So kind of recognizing what's going on in your mind, what kind of beliefs you have about yourself, what you allow and what you don't allow within yourself. Like a real, thorough self-awareness is what the Strength card is speaking to. And so when we can, the more self-aware we can be, the more we can kind of get to a place of strength where we are fully accepting ourselves. Ooh, there's that acceptance word, right? And so when we can fully accept ourselves and we can fully accept what's going on around us, it helps us get into that flow state, right? The Lovers card also speaks to, and for me, the Lovers speaks to making a choice or making choices for yourself that reflect unconditional love and acceptance for yourself. So again, this theme of acceptance, of love for ourselves, for all of ourselves, and acceptance of ourselves and what is really what's going to enable you to do the kind of reflection, right? How can I be in a state of full acceptance and love for myself, right? So that I can be in a state of flow. And let's see, the Prince of Swords, I'm like, which one is he in this deck? I think the Prince of Swords in this deck is, yeah, it's the Knight of Swords. So the Prince of Swords speaks to like wanting to do this, wanting something, you've got some kind of idea and you want to go for it. So I think the caution here is, when you're trying to be in a state of flow, you can't really, it's not going to be helpful to push, right? If you think about a river, you can't push the water, right? The river flows at its own pace. So you have to kind of let go a little bit of having things happen in your timing, right? You have to kind of trust in divine timing and try to just allow for things to happen at their own pace. I love that you have 3 majors here. They all are really confirming what we've been talking about. So another thing that's going to help you be in that flow state and reflect, on how to be in that flow state is this is kind of reiterating that message of believing in your dreams, the star. And also the star speaks to doing the necessary healing, right? In order to get to that place of love and acceptance for ourselves, sometimes there needs to be a healing process that happens. Perhaps you're already in a process of healing, right? So continuing to do that work, and you know, this is what to reflect on. So I think it's like, all right, how can I love myself? What's going on in my head, in my heart? You know, what's going on with me that's supporting love and acceptance for myself and what is, and what's getting in my way? And what is it that I dream of? How can I heal myself? Okay, how can I be more patient and trusting that things will happen when they're supposed to happen? Okay, so these are all of the messages regarding the flow state and reflecting on how to get into flow and what's going to kind of help you, what things you want to be reflecting on as part of that process. And with the World card at the bottom of the deck, I think it's, you know, there's an opportunity here to close out a chapter, to kind of close out a chapter and a time when you were maybe struggling to accept and love yourself fully and struggling to have faith in your dreams and this and that. So you have an opportunity to really kind of close out this chapter and have a fresh start here with this eclipse, or, you know, as part of this eclipse season. All right. Next, we've got how to receive the downloads that you need. So we've got your star ancestor, follow the voice of your soul. So what else does pile one need to know here in terms of how to receive these downloads, how to enable themselves to both hear and follow the voice of their soul? All right, we've got the Queen of Swords, the King of Cups, whoa, the Ace of Swords, and the Two of Swords. At the bottom of the deck, we've got the Devil. Okay, so what I'm getting here with this is the Queen of Swords is somebody who's had quite a lot of experiences, and as a result of her experiences and quite a lot of difficulties, she's been through it, and she's emerged from many difficulties that she's experienced during the course of her life, seeing the truth clearly. Okay, so that's really important, right? To see the truth of what is, right? Not the stories we may have been telling ourselves, not the stories other people have been telling us, but what is our truth? What is the truth for us? The other thing with regard to the Queen of Swords is that she can err on the side of perfectionism. Okay, so she can also err on the side of being a bit too cutting, too cold, too like compartmentalizing her heart, so that she is, you know, not allowing for her heart to come into play, right? You know, that can serve a purpose, but I think with the King of Cups here, you're being asked to strike a balance here between seeing clearly, really seeing the truth of things, letting go of perfectionism, right? So allowing yourself to be whatever you are and whoever you are, and not feel that you're not enough, or that you have to be perfect, or you know, letting go of kind of rigidity, or kind of like things have to be a particular way, right? So releasing that, and also with the King of Cups here, there's a need to master your emotions, right? Be the master of your emotions, to not get consumed or dominated by kind of emotional chaos that might be going on around you, or you know, really stepping into a space of emotional maturity. So with the King of Cups and the Queen of Swords here, we want a nice balance of head and heart, right? When we're getting into a place to allow us to hear the voice of our soul and follow the voice of our soul, it's important to come from a place of balance where we are using our mind and we're using our heart and we're using them in balance, so we're operating optimally. Right? Because if one or the other is dominating, and then it's actually hard to hear the voice of your soul, because either your mind is dominating the story or your emotions are dominating the story, right? So finding that nice balance is really going to enable you to hear and follow the voice of your soul, and it's going to enable you to receive the clarity that you need, receive the messages that you need from your soul, right? The Ace of Swords is the gift of clarity, the gift of insight, success. And with the Two of Swords here, I think that, again, this is speaking to timing, right? So waiting for that clarity, right? Not, if you're not sure, like, what the voice of your soul is telling you, then maybe there's more balance required, right? Maybe you're too in your head and you need to get more in your heart. Or maybe your emotions are taking over and you need to kind of calm the emotions, master the emotions, and kind of use a little bit more of your logic and rational mind, stepping back, looking at the big picture. But the key here is to wait for clarity to make a decision. Oftentimes when we're, trying to figure out what to do, like, do I do this? Do I do that? I'm really not sure. I'm not really feeling pulled in either direction more than the other. Oftentimes there's a third option that we haven't seen yet. So that third option really is going to be the right option that comes from the voice of your soul. All right. Oh, and the other thing with the Devil at the bottom of the deck here, I think it's just a reminder to be aware of any unhealthy attachments that might be getting in the way of following the voice of your soul, whatever that might mean for you. That could look very different for everybody. So, all right, let's see what else we can learn about how to look after yourself. So we've got Cat Spirit, claim your independence. What else does Pile 1 need to know about how to look after themselves during this eclipse season, please? We've got the Queen of Wands, the King of Wands. More balance here, I love it. The Tower, and the Five of Wands. At the bottom of the deck, we've got the Nine of Discs. Oh, that's interesting, because I think one of the key words for the Nine of Discs to me is sovereignty, right? Speaking of claiming your independence. So, once again, we've got a king and a queen here, right? And I love that it's the king and the queen. I mean, that, the kings and the queens have mastered their suit, their realms, right? So they are very experienced. They are very wise. They are very knowledgeable. They are powerful, okay? And with the King and the Queen of Wands here, this reflects a nice balance within the realm of fire, passion, inspiration. So let me take one at a time here. So the Queen of Wands is all about living her truth. Speaking of, the Queen of Swords sees the truth and the Queen of Wands lives it. The Queen of Wands is unapologetically herself. She is very charming. She is very magnetic, and she is able to really do anything that she wants. She is, she's just got a zip in her step, you know what I mean? And so you're being asked to embody this Queen of Wands, to recognize the Queen of Wands in yourself, right? To recognize your power, your ability, your passion, your magnetism, your charm, and your uniqueness, right? And your authenticity as something special and important. And see that as, see all of the strengths that you have that are reflected in this, the Queen of Wands. That is something that is really going to help you claim your independence. And I mean, I'm getting with the Nine of Pentacles here that perhaps claiming your independence, that's interesting. I wanted to say interdependence. Well, we'll come back to that in a second, see if that, what that's all about. But, you know, is like the Nine of Pentacles is financial freedom. It's independence. It's like the independently wealthy person. It's also reflecting on all that you've accomplished so far in your life. And by doing so, it actually enables you to see how much you have the capacity to do and achieve in your life. And speaking of achievement, we've got the King of Wands, who is all about achievement. He is very determined to achieve whatever it is that he wants, and he has absolute confidence in himself. He is not, excuse me, I got a little froggy in my throat. Perhaps you're having a little throat chakra stuff going on, pile one, speaking your truth here. So the King and Queen of Wands can maybe help you. Well, the Queen of Swords can help you for sure with that. As I was saying, the King of Wands is confident, he's determined, and he knows that he can achieve anything he wants, much like the Queen, right? And similar to the Queen of Swords, he has been through a lot. He has been through many things. So he knows how to get things done. He knows how to achieve what it is that he wants, and he's determined to do so. He also is very adept at timing, right? He knows when to make a move, and he knows when not to make a move, right? So that kind of harkens back to that Knight of Swords, right? Kind of really tuning into the right timing of things. You also have the Tower, which to me could be speaking to what it is that needs to kind of break down regarding things that are getting in the way of your independence, such that they, you know, by breaking down, by, you know, whatever is getting in the way of your independence, when we can break those things down, it allows us to clear that faulty foundation that we've been operating from, that maybe is hindering our independence, in order to build a more stable foundation so that we actually can be truly independent in a way that's going to allow us to thrive and enable us to thrive. Part of what could be needing to break down is how you're perceiving challenges in your life, right? This could be a part of the equation, a piece of the puzzle here. If you're seeing things like challenges as obstacles, if you're seeing them as barriers, if you're seeing things as brick walls, if you're seeing things as like, oh, you know, you're in conflict with what is, right? You're resisting what is, it makes it much harder to not continue to be faced with similar types of challenges. Because ultimately, when challenges are in front of us, they are meant to be lessons to learn, right? So they are ultimately opportunities for growth, for learning, for development, for evolution. And, you know, in some Five of Wands depictions, you can see some boys who are actually doing some training, right? And that is ultimately what these challenges are trying to present themselves as in your life. It's like opportunities for training, for learning, for overcoming the challenges in a way that enables you to move forward versus resisting them, struggling, wondering why this keeps happening, you know, like kind of repeating the same way of dealing with the challenges kind of perpetuates the pattern. So it's really, you know, that could be what the tower is trying to kind of break down right now, make you aware of a particular pattern that needs to be broken so that you can develop newer, healthier patterns that are going to really free you, right? They're going to free you from whatever is getting in your way and whatever's stopping you from kind of living your life, living your purpose, right? Living your dreams, right? Stop you from being like sovereign, experiencing sovereignty, financial freedom, freedom in general. Okay, next we have what needs to change, and that, if you remember, is have faith in your dreams. So how can pile one make this change and start having more faith in their dreams? We've got the Five of Swords, the High Priestess, the Hanged Person, Hanged Man, which is called Perspective in this deck. Nope, not quite. And two want to come out. I mean, if it does it again, I'll just pick two, but there we go. And Disappointment. Okay, yeah. At the bottom of the deck, we have the Ten of Cups. Yeah, so the Five of Swords, we've got 3 5s showing up in your reading, and 5s speak to change. They also, in the tarot, really highlight different challenges that we may be facing. But the beauty of the tarot, from my perspective, is that the more challenging cards come up when we're ready to face them. So that is the good news. So the Five of Swords, to me, speaks to inner conflict, and really it speaks to how our mind kind of creates conflict for us, right? Limiting beliefs, old stories, old programming. You know, it could come from other people ultimately, right? But it's things that we've kind of locked in and started believing in, or maybe kind of keep repeating or keep fighting in our minds. And so the Five of Swords is an opportunity to recognize, right? It kind of goes back to speaking to that strength card, right? Recognizing the kinds of thoughts that are ultimately getting in our way and that really are not our truth, right? The Queen of Swords. Like, what is our truth? What is the origin story of these conflicting thoughts, these limiting beliefs, this old programming? Like, where did we start believing this or start telling ourselves this, right? Sometimes that's a way to kind of help yourself really see clearly that, like, oh, why have I been holding on to this thought? Or why do I keep telling myself this thought? That's not my truth, right? So self-awareness is really a key factor in addressing the Five of Swords and releasing those thoughts that really don't serve us, that get in our way. So to have faith in our dreams, first we have to really be aware of what's getting in the way of us believing in ourselves and in our dreams. Another card, I'm going to jump here to this Five of Cups. This is another way we may be getting in our own way and making it hard to have faith in our dreams. The Five of Cups is disappointment. It's really focusing on past. This is an interesting rendition, because usually the Five of Cups in the traditional Rider-Waite and other cards, that the person has their head down and they're looking at 3 cups that have been spilled over. And so all they can focus on is the wine that's been spilled, what's been lost, what's been disappointing, right? Meanwhile, 2 cups are standing upright behind them, and they don't see that, right? Because they're not in their heart. They're not feeling love. They're not focused on love, the Two of Cups. This one is interesting because it shows the person with their back to all the cups. And there's two cups that are down, right? So perhaps this person is focusing on lost love, or not being able to have what they love, or feeling disappointment about love, right? And that's what they're focused on. And the Three of Cups are the ones that are standing. So perhaps there are some people, there's a community, there's some support. There's a support system that you could be tapping into that would be helpful for just kind of getting you out of the space of disappointment in love, and kind of freshen up your heart space, right? And kind of fill your heart with joy, fill your heart with fun and play. And that could be a key to kind of getting yourself out of this place of focusing solely on disappointment, right? Because when we focus on disappointment first, and we focus on what hasn't worked and what's disappointed us and this and that from the past, we're not able to kind of open ourselves to what could be, right? Because we're so focused on the past and what wasn't, right? Actually, let me do this one. So what's also needed is shifting your perspective. I mean, we've been talking about that a lot so far, right? So the Hangman is just confirming the message that there's really a need for a perspective shift, right? And what will help with that perspective shift, and that shifting away from kind of the negativity, the lack of acceptance, resistance, conflict, thoughts that get in our way, emotions that get in our way, is taking a pause, taking that time out, right? And allowing ourselves to pause and reflect in order to see things from a different perspective, right? Get a different vantage point, step back and look at things from a different place, from a broader perspective, so that we can gain some new insights, so that we can hear the voice of our soul, so that we can be able to actually focus on what it is that we want for ourselves and start really believing that it's possible. What's also going to help with this, and again, this is kind of another confirming message, is really tuning into our intuition, right? So creating that space that allows for our intuition and the guidance of our intuition to flow in, so that we can actually follow the voice of our soul and move towards our dreams and really see that our dreams are possible, right? Having that faith in our dreams is what's going to enable us to move in the direction of our dreams. Whoa! At the bottom of the deck, we've got the Ten of Cups, emotional fulfillment, right? So what does that look like for you? At the very least, what does that feel like for you, right? These are the things that we want to be focusing on versus negative emotions, negative thoughts, old programming, things that are really getting in the way of our ability to have faith in our dreams. All right, finally, how do we transform? We've got the Sky Bridge, possibility for union. And I might read that card. Let's see, how much time? Ooh, these are long, okay. All right. Okay. Possibility for union is how to transform. Well, right away I'm hearing opening yourself up to the possibility for union with your dreams, right? Be that a person, a place, a thing, a business, a creative project, a trip. What are your dreams here? And really opening yourself up so that you can kind of walk through the portal of possibility, cross that bridge to possibility. I really love the story that's emerging here. Pile 1. Okay, so we've got the Three of Cups, which I've kind of spoken to, but I'll repeat that. We've got the Eight of Wands, we've got the Seven of Wands, and we've got the Fool. Beautiful. Okay, so as I was mentioning before, we've got the Three of Cups, and you see it says friendship here, right? So the Three of Cups can speak to the need to tap into your support system, your community, your friends, you know, those people that really have your back, those people that really offer you support. You know, if you have friends that maybe trigger kind of the negativity, the competition, the conflict, the lack of belief in yourself, the lack of belief in your dreams, etc., etc. Those are not the people that you want to be spending time with right now. You really want to be connecting with the people that see you for who you are and want you to thrive, right? Because that's gonna just help lift you up, right? We don't want to be spending time with people that knock us down. We also want to be directing our time, our energy, our resources towards a goal, okay? So once things become clear, like, you know, the way to transform here, right, is taking all of the information that you're receiving from your soul, right, from this process of kind of really tapping into what is it that I want, and I believe that I can have it, right? Like, what you want to take all of this and have it culminate in directed activity and energy and focus on what it is that you want, right? That is going to help you get there, right? So it's really important, once things become clear, once you kind of get to that place of like, ooh, this is what I want and I know I can have it, you know, how can you direct your energy and your focus and your attention and your resources? Like, what can you do to make that happen? That's what you're being called to do. And with the Seven of Wands here, it's really important to stand up for what you believe in, right? To stand up for your truth, but also to protect your energy, right? We had that Three of Cups, and I was talking about kind of being discerning and selective about whose energy you're exposing yourself to, whose energy you're bringing in, you know, making sure that it's supportive and, like, you know, you're spending time with people who want you to succeed in the way that you want to succeed. And so it's important to protect your energy from anybody else, right? Any other kinds of energy that might be around you. You really want to create a protective bubble around yourself from any kind of negative energy that might impact you and take you off course. Because with the Fool here, I'm just covering up her booty. I didn't do that before, but I'm going to do it now. With the Fool here, you have, like, this is a new beginning, right? As we mentioned before, the universe came up and it was, you know, a message that, like, you have this opportunity to close out this chapter. And when you close out one chapter, you begin a new chapter. So the Fool speaks to this new beginning, this opportunity for this new beginning that you have as a result of kind of doing everything that we've talked about here as a means for navigating the eclipse season. Because this new beginning could be at the other end of the eclipse season. I'm not saying right at the end of the eclipse season, but, you know, on the other side of the eclipse season, in the right timing, right? In the timing that's meant for you. Let's read this Sky Bridge possibility for union. The other thing that I just want to make sure I'm saying with regard to the Fool is that it's really important, and this ties in with everything else we've been talking about, to have faith in yourself, to trust yourself, to take a leap of faith, right? That's the Fool does that. And the Fool, even though they're called the Fool, other people might see them as foolish, but really the Fool is has already been through this journey, right? The Fool's journey at least once, right? And they're starting again, and they're bringing all of that learning, all of that knowledge, all of that wisdom to apply to the next chapter of their life, the next journey. So know that you have that wisdom within you. You are not a fool. Okay, this is, where am I looking? Oh, 47. Okay, Skybridge, possibility for union. Show you the card while I read it. There you go. What needs to be connected or disconnected? You stand before a seemingly unbreachable abyss, and there's no possibility of retreat. The path behind you is no longer a viable option. That's why the tower is crumbling, because it's not going to be a viable option anymore. You have to act soon, though, or you run the risk of being stuck at the edge of the cliff. I mean, don't rush, as we've been talking about. Just when things become clear, you want to take action, right? That 8 of Wands. But don't take action before things are clear. Life has brought you to this moment to offer you as yet undreamt of possibilities. But you must no longer postpone what you know to be inevitable. And yes, you are allowed a breath or two before the leap of faith. So take a bit of time to yourself. Get away for a day or two of contemplation, or even for just a few minutes walk to clear your head. I love when they confirm the messages. Muster your courage so that you may cross the sky bridge. Sky bridge appears when the moment is absolutely right for a quantum leap. Life believes you are ready, even if you do not agree. Remember not to confuse your true state of readiness with your plans and preparation. Respond with a determined yes, and let the universe take care of the details. You need only hold on to your positive affirmation, and the way will become obvious as you take flight and clear the abyss. Beautiful. All right, pile 1, that's what I've got for you. I hope that was helpful. Take good care, and sending you lots of love. Until next time, bye. Hello, pile 2. If you chose the Everyday Witch Tarot deck, then this is your reading. Okay, let's get started with your oracle cards. Our first card is what to reflect on this eclipse season. Ooh, and you get inner peace. All right, so, I mean, that's pretty straightforward, pile 2. You are meant to be reflecting on how you can find more inner peace during this eclipse season. I mean, I think you're meant to be reflecting during the eclipse season about how you can be creating more inner peace, both during and after the eclipse season. So we'll get more clarification on that, but I feel like that's pretty much all there is to say right now about that. Next, we've got how to receive the downloads. In other words, how to receive the wisdom that wants to find you right now or at this time. And we've got mountains, stand your ground. Interesting. It's interesting that the mountains, we can see the mountains above and kind of what's below the surface there, right? And it just shows you how, like the not only how what's the word I'm looking for? How do I say this? How sturdy and strong and stable the mountains are. Just, you know, you can see that when you look at them and what's above ground, but then you can see just the extent to which they are part of the earth and how deep they go, right? So I feel like, you know, what I'm hearing here is as above, so below, right? So it's really important to, in order to receive the wisdom that you need right now or at this time, to really recognize the truth of that statement, right? as above, so below, and kind of tried to be living by that philosophy, that, you know, understanding, recognizing that that your thoughts become your reality, right? And so if we are thinking anxious thoughts, worried thoughts, fearful thoughts, then we tend to kind of experience a anxious, worried, fearful reality, or that's our perspective on what we're experiencing. If we have a calm, grounded, quiet mind, then that is reflected in our reality. I also feel like this picture, this image does kind of have that reflective quality as well. So I feel like you're being asked to really focus on quieting your mind, having a calm mind, just getting yourself grounded in order to be able to receive the wisdom that you need. That's going to be really helpful. I think also being in your truth, right? Standing your ground in a sense that you are recognizing that your beliefs, your truth matter. And by being in your truth, it's going to enable you to be open to messages, the wisdom that you need. If you are paying a lot of attention to external messaging, external validation, things coming to you from the outside that are not necessarily in alignment with your truth, that's going to make it more difficult to receive the downloads, to receive the wisdom that is meant for you, that is trying to find you. Next, we have how to look after yourself. And we have Lion Spirit, be generous of spirit. So I feel like this card not only refers to being generous towards others, but first and foremost, being really generous with yourself, right? Giving yourself grace, being, you know, we're in Leo season, right? Being lion-hearted, being generous of heart and spirit, right? And I find that the more generous of spirit, generous of heart we are with ourselves, the more we can be that way with other people. So you're being called to really look after yourself by being generous of heart with yourself and with others. All right, our next position is what needs to change. Interesting. So the message here is your hard work is paying off. New moon in Capricorn. So the message that's coming through this in terms of being in this position of what needs to change, it seems like you've been working hard. It seems like you have been working hard, your hard work is paying off, but what needs to change is maybe this idea that you need to work hard, right? It's not to say that working hard hasn't benefited you in the past. I mean, it's probably been a mixed bag, right? Like you've probably seen results from your hard work, and I think it's important to put, you know, work and effort into certain things, but I think we are taught that that's the only way to get results. That's the only way to get anywhere. That's the only way to achieve what we want. And so I think what needs to change is the belief that it only takes hard work to pay off, right? In order to get paid off, or to get paid even, you have to work hard, you have to push, you have to effort, you have to, you know, achieve and brr. I think that is what needs to change, is the belief that that's the only modus operandi, right? That's the only way to get what you want or to achieve success. We'll get some clarification on that. Finally, we've got how to transform. And we've got intentionality, eye of the needle. So, how to transform is to really get focused, really get super intentional about what it is that you want, about where it is that you want to go, what it is you want to create, what it is you want to build, what you want to start, whatever resonates for you, right? But the key here to transformation and to transforming a situation into what you want it to be is getting very intentional. What are your intentions? What is it specifically that you're hoping to accomplish or achieve? All right, let's get some clarification from the tarot here. I already shuffled it, so I don't need to shuffle it again. So for what to reflect on during this eclipse season, started here with inner peace as what you need to reflect on. Let's see what other messages we have for you that can clarify what to reflect on during this eclipse season. We've got Four of Swords, the Eight of Swords, Temperance. Oh, I'm taking those two. And the Emperor. All right. At the bottom of the deck, we've got the Five of Wands. All right. Well, it seems to me like you could be finding yourself in some Five of Wands situations where you're experiencing some challenges, perhaps some conflict, some perceived barriers, obstacles, things like that. Let's just call them challenges, okay? And so you're really being called to reflect on how can I find inner peace despite challenges in front of me, despite challenges arising, despite having to face different challenges. Well, your first card is the Four of Swords. Rest, meditation, prayer even, depending on what works for you. But it's really about taking time out, carving out time and space for yourself to rest, to heal, to relax, to meditate, right? To pray, whatever you feel you need to do to create that inner peace for yourself, right? So that's very clear, right? Because by creating that space for ourselves to rest, to recover, to heal, to meditate, it really does create inner peace. It contributes to that inner peace that we're looking for, right? So how can you create that space for yourself to rest? How can you carve out time for yourself where it's just allows you to rest? And this is something you might need to be resting from as well, right? Your own mind. Sometimes our mind can convince us that we are trapped or we are stuck in some kind of situation. But what the Eight of Swords is saying is that actually that's really just a mental trapping that is convincing you that you're trapped, right? Because when we look at this card, right, she ultimately can get out of this situation very easily, right? She just has to stand up. The ties around her, the rope or whatever around her wrist is very loose. She could just stand up, remove the blindfold, and just walk out of this, right? I'm not saying whatever situation you're in is that straightforward and simple, but the point of the Eight of Swords is that there's a need to reflect on how your mind be convincing you that you're trapped or stuck, right? When in reality, you have more power than that, right? You actually have a way to free yourself from whatever the situation is. And that's something that, again, reflecting on what it is that's kind of getting in your way from experiencing inner peace is another thing to reflect on. Like, how am I creating this sense of stuckness for myself? What am I telling myself? How am I perceiving my reality? And that's something, if you create this quiet space for yourself, you kind of shut out the noise so you can rest, quiet your mind, you can kind of reflect on, you can be aware of what's coming up and how those thoughts are and aren't serving you, right? And you can reflect on, like, what might I be telling myself, or how might I be perceiving things in such a way that makes me feel trapped, when in fact, maybe I'm not so trapped. Maybe it's what I'm telling myself that makes me feel that way. Next, you have temperance. And temperance, you can see from this card, one of the things that stands out most is balance, right? Creating a sense of balance for yourself. This card also speaks to healing, right? Reiterating that message of healing. Trusting that spirit has your back is another big message of the temperance card. And alchemizing, right? We talked about the Five of Wands and how there can be a challenge or different challenges that you're facing, and we can look at those challenges as blocks, as obstacles, as walls, as things that are making things hard. We can look at them that way, as barriers, right, to what we want. Or we can look at them as opportunities for growth, as opportunities for learning. So the temperance card really speaks to alchemy and changing things, playing with the energy, changing things from one thing to another, right? So taking lead and turning it to gold, taking a challenge and turning it to learning, knowledge, and wisdom that you can apply moving forward. Finally, another message that I am getting here from this particular temperance card is the need for temperance, for moderation, right? So, it's okay to have some sugar. Well, I mean, not for everybody, you do you. I'm not advising anything, but just as an example, right? So a little bit of sugar, like a cupcake, might be fine, but we don't want to eat like a whole plate of cupcakes, right? Or like buying something for a particular purpose is fine, but we don't want to be shopping as a way to kind of numb ourselves, or as a way to kind of try to make ourselves feel better, right? So it's important to operate and do things with moderation, do things in moderation, right? Because, if you think about it, right, if you drink too much, that might help you cope with whatever challenges you're facing temporarily. But the next day, you're not going to be feeling very peaceful, right? A lot of times the next day we might feel physically bad. We might feel mentally bad. We might feel guilty and shameful and whatever, like things that come along with a hangover that do not create that inner peace ultimately, right? It might create a moment of peace, but when we're looking for inner peace, when we're reflecting on how can we create inner peace, substances are not really going to get us there for the long run, for the long haul. So be strategic about how you're navigating your challenges, right? And the Emperor also, to me, speaks of stepping into your power, recognizing the power that you have in a way that is balanced, right? Where you are balancing the divine masculine and the divine feminine. The Emperor really recognizes the value and importance of the Empress, right? Of both of them combining their power to provide leadership, right? So being open, being receptive, being nurturing, being creative, right? The divine feminine is just as important as being proactive, being a doer, being a builder, right? And being strategic. So you want to combine those qualities in a balanced way as you step into your own power. This, again, is going to be a way for you to, by reflecting on how you can do this, it's going to allow you to move towards that inner peace. that we all really would like to have, right? Especially times, there's a lot going on, and times are very difficult for a lot of people. So inner peace, finding inner peace is really important for successful navigation through challenging times. All right, let's go on to how to receive downloads, how to receive the wisdom that's trying to find you right now. We've got mountains, stand your ground, right? And now also I'm thinking about mountains as oftentimes in the tarot, mountains, I mean, I know this is an oracle card, but mountains can represent challenges, right? So do we let those challenges like just knock us over? No, we stand our ground, we stand in our strength in a balanced way, in a calm, peaceful way, recognizing them as opportunities for growth to the extent possible. I know it is not always easy. But the more we can do that, the more we can, gain the wisdom that we need through those challenges so that we can move on and not have to repeat the lessons, right? Once we've learned a lesson, the challenge may come up again, but we've learned the lesson, so it doesn't affect us in the same way, right? All right, we're starting with the Five of Swords, the Sun, the Hermit, and the Six of Pentacles. And we've got the Queen of Swords at the bottom of the deck. Right, so here's another card representing the type of challenges we may be coming across, right? The Five of Swords to me really reflects, it can reflect external conflict, but I tend to read tarot based on what's happening with you. So not necessarily external influences so much, other than kind of your ability or kind of how to help you navigate things. But I don't talk about other people so much. So I read the Five of Swords as really the kinds of thoughts that tend to create conflict in our mind, right? So limiting beliefs, old programming, negative thinking, these are the kinds of things that really don't ultimately serve us. And if we get into that, well, if we allow those thoughts to kind of swirl around in our head, it kind of makes our challenges that much more difficult to navigate, right? Because they just kind of get exacerbated by negative thought patterns. So in order to be able to receive the wisdom, right, from any challenges you're facing, because that seems to kind of be what we're talking about here, it's, again, important to really become aware of what kinds of thoughts, what kind of thought patterns might be occurring in your mind that are taking you off track, that are not serving you, that are not enabling you to face this challenge in a way where you can actually learn from the challenge and gain the knowledge that ultimately becomes the wisdom that you can apply moving forward. What can help with this is really focusing on your happiness. What is it that makes you happy, right? What is it that brings you joy? By focusing on your happiness and trying to really follow your happiness, that's something that can enable you to navigate these challenges, right? Like if your priority is your happiness, well, then learning from your challenges is going to get you to happiness faster than just getting caught up in negative thinking and, just when we get caught up in that kind of old programming, limiting beliefs, negative thinking as we're faced with challenges, we ultimately it just kind of becomes this vicious cycle, right? That's kind of difficult to get out of, that makes everything seem worse than it is. If we can say, hey, I'm prioritizing my happiness. I want to do what makes me happy. What can I do to make myself happy? If that's part of our focus, in addition to learning from our challenges, releasing negativity, negative thought patterns, negative thinking, it's going to allow us to open to the wisdom, open to the downloads, to the guidance that's going to ultimately help us. And here's another message of kind of taking that time out. You see the owl there representing the wisdom that comes from taking that space for yourself, taking that time out for yourself, quieting the mind, right? And you know, if you're thinking like, well, I don't know how to quiet my mind, it's like the first step is becoming aware of the thoughts in your mind, right? The more we can notice the kinds of thoughts that are coming through, the more we can be like, oh, where's that coming from, right? What's the origin story of that belief about myself, or that comment about myself, or that thing I'm saying? Oh, where did that come? Oh, that teacher said that to me, or that parent, or somebody said that to me, and that's not my truth. That's from that person. And you know, so really kind of trying to understand where these thoughts might be coming from, right? So you can kind of gain new insights, gain some wisdom about where these might be coming from, and the fact that they actually aren't your truth, right? That, I think, is the wisdom that is trying to come through. Like, what's yours and what's not yours. Again, we have a card of balance. And this is interesting because this is also a card of generosity, which is our next oracle card. So the Six of Pentacles speaks to situations that offer equal give and take, right? Where you are receiving what you're giving, right? What you're putting in is what you're getting out, right? There's a nice give and take, an equal give and take. There's equanimity in the situation where you feel like, oh, I'm putting in this effort, I'm doing all this, and I'm benefiting in these ways. I'm getting this out of it. So it feels really good. It feels balanced. And it allows you to be in a space of generosity, right? And when, like I was saying earlier, when you're in a space of generosity, other people tend to be more generous with you. So again, there's that more of that equanimity in the situations you find yourself in. So how can you create more balance in your life? How can you be involved in situations that have more equanimity, where there is more of an equal state of give and take? Again, that is really going to allow for you to receive the wisdom, right? Because if you're in a situation where you feel like you're giving, and you're not getting much out of it, that can put you right back into this state of mind, right? And when you're in this state of mind, see all the, all of the, well, I mean, it's steam, but it's making me think of like clouds, right? It can kind of cloud your mind and make it so that your mind isn't open to kind of the wisdom. Your mind isn't going to be open to the happiness that you deserve. All right. And, I was mentioning, like, what is your truth? Queen of Swords at the bottom of the deck. She knows her truth, right? She sees the truth clearly. And she is open and receptive while also maintaining boundaries, right? So she's got her sword of truth up because she sees the truth very clearly, and she's not going to tolerate any BS. But she's also open to receiving, she's open to new situations. She's open to receiving the wisdom. She's open to being happy. All right. Let's see what else we've got here for our next message, which is how to look after yourself. And we've got our lion spirit, be generous of spirit, which I just love in honor of Leo season. And Leo, my cat, this side. Both the kitties are in the background with us today. Leo is the tabby closer to the window, so he's here too. Well, they both are. Lola's the other kitty. All right. No, that's too many. What do we have here? What other messages do we have here for pile 2 regarding how to look after themselves during this eclipse season? We've got the Two of Pentacles, another card of balance, the Page of Wands, the Magician, and the Knight of Cups. Beautiful. At the bottom of the deck, we have the Judgment card. All right. Like I said, we've got the Two of Pentacles here, another card of balance. So you may be feeling like you're juggling a lot right now. There might be a lot going on. And so it's really important to, again, you know, we've talked about like finding that space where you can actually quiet your mind, you can focus, right? Because I mean, she's not really doing it in this particular version, but usually the Two of Pentacles is juggling. And so in order to juggle, you really have to be focused, right? So, but she is focused. You can see her focused on these two pentacles that she's holding up that find themselves within an infinity symbol, right? Indicating that there is, you know, there are infinite possibilities, limitless possibilities available to you. And what's key here is focus and balance. So part of what's needed to look after yourself during this eclipse season is focus and balance. And what is it that you should be focusing on? Well, one of the things you're being encouraged to focus on is some kind of new project or new endeavor, new creative endeavor, something that inspires you, something that you're feeling passionate about, right? They're holding that Ace of Wands, which is the potential for some new direction, some new path, some new creative path, right? Be that a project, be that, well, it could be anything really. And so all of the pages are kind of right at the beginning of something. And so you're being encouraged to really focus on taking the steps towards what you're feeling inspired and passionate about, inspired by and passionate about. Additionally, it's really important for you to recognize that you have an inner guide that is always guiding you, right? You're always receiving messages, you're always being given messages and, you know, guidance to get you, you know, to have you move forward on your path. The messenger is Hermes. The magician is represented by Mercury. So, you know, it might not be a straight path. It's usually not, but the more we can listen to our inner guide and trust that we're being guided in the direction that we're meant to go, the more magic we can create, right? The more magic we have access to, right? The more we can create, cultivate, manifest what it is that we want. And the other thing with the magician is that the magician recognizes that they have access to all of the resources that they need to be able to create, cultivate, manifest what it is that they want. So it's really important to be aware of the resources that you have available to you. I also love that in this version there are roses or flowers at the top, so signifying the growth and development that is available to you as well. So these are, you know, as a reminder, these are things to keep in mind and remember and do as you move through eclipse season as a way to look after yourself, right? And care for yourself. Finally, we have the Knight of Cups. The Knight of Cups is all about following your heart, being in your heart space and allowing your heart to guide you, right? It reminds me, I'm thinking about the Sun card, right? Following your happiness, following your heart, allowing your heart to take you, you know, to help you fly over those shark-infested waters, right? So that's another thing that's really key this eclipse season, to be able to look out for yourself, to look after yourself. And all of these things, again, just as a reminder, are going to enable you to be generous of spirit with yourself, right? Being in your heart space, right? Being generous of heart with yourself, focusing on what you're passionate about and moving, taking steps in that direction, staying balanced, staying focused on, you know, the power that you have to create the world you want, to create the things you want, to create the life you want. All of these come into play in terms of looking after ourselves. Also, you know, Judgment card. You're being called to rise up to who you ultimately are, right? You're being called to rise up to be more in alignment with yourself, even more in alignment. Maybe you feel like you're already in alignment with yourself, but you're being called to rise up to become even more aligned with who you truly are. All right, next we've got what changes are needed. And we've got your hard work is paying off, new moon in Capricorn. So we talked about like maybe what changes are needed, but we'll get clarification from the tarot, are that there needs to be kind of a shift in perspective regarding what's needed to achieve what you want. Do you really need to work so hard? Are you working too hard? Can we relax a little bit? Can we have a little bit more balance and still get where we want to go and achieve what we want and have the life we want? Can we have a life of abundance without having to work so hard? I'd like to think so. All right, we've got the Fool. We've got the Moon. The Hierophant. And the Tower. Wow, 4 majors for that one. At the bottom of the deck, we've got the Knight of Swords. Okay, interesting. All right, well, I want to start with the Knight of Swords, because the Knight of Swords can be that pushing, that like, oh, like this is what I want and I gotta go for it, I gotta do it. Like there's an intensity, right? Like he is just kind of charging forth, and look at, like, he's kind of creating mayhem, right? By pushing so hard and moving so fast towards what he wants, right? So it's like, I think you're being called to kind of ease up a little bit, to ease up on the pushing, the efforting, the doing, right? We've got the Fool here. And the Fool is all about, I mean, it's kind of like, about to say, the Fool is all about taking a leap of faith on yourself, right? But look at the position that this Fool is in. It's like freedom, freedom from all of this hard work and efforting, right? I can be free to have the life I want without having to work so hard. This may be unfamiliar territory, right? Because you might be the kind of person who's always worked really hard, and, you know, maybe that's worked out for you in a lot of ways, right? But I think you're really being asked to trust yourself, trust where you're being guided, how you're being guided, and don't be afraid of doing things differently, right? You've also got the Hierophant here, which is, you know, again, we're speaking to that kind of inner peace, that quieting your mind, that receiving of the guidance that you need, receiving of the wisdom. And we've got the Tower here, which signifies kind of breaking down old, faulty foundations, right? So, you know, we are taught, many of us are taught, let's say, I guess not all of us, many of us are taught by our families, by society, that we have to work hard, and the only way to achieve something is to work hard, right? And that could be the foundation, and likely is the foundation, that is crumbling right now. because it's faulty. And so you're being asked to trust yourself, to trust as you're navigating this new territory that you're unfamiliar with, the moon, and trust the wisdom and the guidance that you're receiving. Trust what your heart is telling you. Trust what's making you happy and bringing you joy. Oh, the other thing I forgot to mention about the sun is another message of the sun is that you are protected, right? And we also had the Temperance card. Spirit's got your back. Trust that you are building new, stronger foundations that are going to contribute to creating the life that you want, where maybe you don't have to work so hard. Maybe you can let go a little bit of having to push and effort and work so hard, and still have the life that you want, and maybe have even more of the life that you want, because it doesn't require you to work so much. All right, finally, we've got what is needed for transformation. Is that what it is? Let me see here. How to transform. How to transform. And we've got the Eye of the Needle, intentionality. What other messages do we have here from the tarot? We've got the Ten of Cups. The Queen of Swords is back. The Six of Cups. And the Ace of Swords. Love it. And the Nine of Wands is at the bottom of the deck. So, I feel like this is speaking to what I was just talking about, the Nine of Wands, right? You may be feeling just burnt out, by all of the hard work that you've been putting in. And I mean, maybe you don't even feel like it's been paying off, right? It's like, I'm putting all this work in, and what do I have to show for it, right? That may just be for some of you. But the point here is the Nine of Wands is the wounded warrior, right? The Nine of Wands has been through many, many challenges and is kind of in this position of like, what do I have to deal with next, right? What's next? What's my next challenge? They're exhausted, right? They're weary, and they've been through it. So being a 9, it's really the end of that cycle, right? It's not to say that more challenges may not come up, but you are at the end of this period of time where you're just kind of battling, having battle after battle after battle, okay? What's coming, how to transform, I don't know why I keep forgetting what the placement is by focusing on your Ten of Cups here, and knowing and trusting that your Ten of Cups is possible. You can have emotional fulfillment, is what the Ten of Cups is telling you, and how you can reach emotional fulfillment, if I could talk, is by focusing on what it is that you want. What does emotional fulfillment look like and feel like to you, right? We know that there is no ultimate happily ever after, but if there was, what would that be for you, right? So how can you focus your intentions on creating that state of emotional fulfillment? What intentions do you need to have in order to reach emotional fulfillment? Here we have the Queen of Swords again, right? So it's important to see the truth clearly, right? To recognize your truth, your experiences, the wisdom that you've gained from your experiences, right? And to really maintain a sense of openness, but also maintaining any necessary boundaries in order to hold space for yourself and hold the kind of space that you need for yourself to move towards emotional fulfillment. Also, with the Queen of Swords, she has a very keen sense of humor. So having a sense of humor is only going to help you as you transform, right? As you transform, as you move towards emotional fulfillment, and you navigate the changes that you need to make in your life to reach that emotional fulfillment. We also have the Six of Cups here. So the Six of Cups speaks to the need to really tend to that inner child. What does that inner child in you need? Does the inner child need healing? Does the inner child need more fun, need more joy? Does the inner child need a hug, need more love? You know, what if you were speaking to your inner child, or, you know, different parts of yourself? There's, you know, I don't know if you're familiar with IFS parts work, but, you know, often we have different parts of ourselves, right, based on kind of what we learned as a child that are playing roles in our life. So, you know, you are the adult now, and how could you tend to that inner child's needs? How can you provide that inner child or those inner children within you with what you didn't get, and maybe you did get it, but how can you provide that inner child with what they need right now, right? That's really important. All of these things, right? Knowing your truth, tending to your inner child, focusing on what would be emotionally fulfilling to you. These are all going to help you set the kinds of intentions that you need to achieve what it is that you want, the life that you want. And this will become, you know, the intentions that need to be set by you will become crystal clear when you're able to really know your truth, see your own truth, maintain those boundaries that help create that personal space for yourself to be able to move towards your emotional fulfillment, tending to that inner child, you know, playing, having fun, nurturing yourself, loving yourself. All of these things are going to contribute to bringing you the clarity and the success that you need to set the kinds of intentions that are going to help you make a beeline towards that emotional fulfillment. Did you like that sound I made there? Anyway, I'm going to read that card description as our final message here, and then that will be the end of the reading here. Okay, Eye of the Needle, intentionality, clarity, positive outcomes. Love it. If you look through the eye of a needle, what do you see? Summon the experience of being so singularly, whoopsie, I thought it said singularity, but let me try that again. Summon the experience of being so singularly focused on the task ahead that it becomes natural to remove everything that is superfluous, every distraction, every non-essential, so you succeed. What is, in this case, the definition of success? In order for the threading of the needle to happen, everything not in alignment with your goal needs to go. This is the only way you'll get what you need. Shrewd discernment. The willingness to winnow down the needle thread connection to its essence. The eye of the needle looks so tiny, but once your intention threads through it, a vast opportunity is presented on the other side. The needle can mend, can sew things together to make something meaningful and new. You're experiencing success right now. Stay true to your desires, to the work you need to accomplish, so you are laser focused on the experience of creating and manifesting. The outcome is assured by divine forces. I love it. I feel that just confirms everything we've been talking about. All right, pile 2. I hope that was helpful. Take good care of yourself. Sending you lots of love. And until next time, bye. Hello, pile 3. If you chose the Light Seers Tarot deck, then this is your reading. Let's get started with our oracle cards. Our first one is what to reflect on during this eclipse season. And your card is community. Beautiful. So what you're being asked to reflect on during this eclipse season, pile 3, is community. This could mean focusing on the community that you find yourself in. And I mean, this could mean so many different things, really. But what I'm getting is that, you know, it's like, what is community to you? What do you want out of your community? What do you want to put into your community? What kind of community do you want to be a part of? Perhaps you could either have community right now and you're just kind of focused on how you want to be engaging with your community. You could also be seeking like be in a new place and trying to find your place in that, or find your community in that particular place. You could also be looking to find a community that helps contribute to your transformation. As I see the butterflies flying through this rainbow, you know, you could have been, or you could be going through some challenging times, or have been going through some challenging times, and you're going to be finding some kind of, or you're seeking some kind of sense of community that is going to serve as like your rainbow at the end of a storm, that's going to ultimately be kind of transformative. Oh yeah. Okay, we'll get some more clarification with the tarot, but that final message feels like that could be the one, but it could be different for each of you. All right, next we've got how to receive downloads, how to receive the wisdom that's trying to find you. Well, you've got the hunter here. Track down your fears and desires. Okay, so what you're being asked to do here in order to be able to open yourself up to downloads, to the wisdom that's trying to find you, is to really get a handle on what kinds of fears might be getting in your way, what kind of fears might be in play for you right now that are ultimately kind of preventing you from gaining the wisdom that that's trying to find you. And at the same time, you're being called to kind of home in on what is it that you desire? What is it that you want? What is it that you're seeking? What do you want to be creating? What kind of world do you want to be wielding? Wielding? What kind of sword do you want to be wielding? I don't know where that came from. What kind of world do you want to be building is what I was trying to say. Oftentimes, our fears go hand in hand with our desires, right? Because we have desires, but then when when those desires come up, oftentimes we have fears come and tell us, oh, like all the reasons why we can't have that, right? So it's important to kind of be doing the kind of two-pronged work here of tracking down, identifying both your fears and your desires. I would say maybe kind of focus on your desires first and see what kind of fears come up in reaction to those desires. Because by identifying those and tracking those down, becoming aware of those, you can actually be working on releasing those fears in order to create the space and the opening to be able to receive what it is that you desire. Next, we've got how to look after yourself during this eclipse season. Words. Okay, we've got Giraffe Spirit, see the big picture. Okay, well that makes sense given this notion of kind of focusing on identifying or tracking down your fears in particular and your desires. because what can help us feel less fear, right, and kind of step back from that fearful place is getting a new vantage point, looking at the bigger picture in order to gain more perspective on our situation, to gain more perspective on how and why fears might be coming into play and how they may be limiting us, how they may be getting in our way from, you know, obtaining our desires, having what we want. Next, we have what needs to change. Okay. What needs to change is bring love into the situation. New moon in Aquarius. So, in order to have our desires, in order to have what we want, in order to open ourselves up and release fear, we need to actually bring love into the situation. We need to move into our heart space. We need to show ourselves love and come from a place of love and get into our heart and follow our heart, right? Love is the antithesis of fear. So the more we can be in our heart and bring love into a situation, it's going to help push out the fear. Finally, how to transform. We've got a covenant, sacred contract. All right. Well, this card is a bit mysterious to me. I mean, when I draw it, I usually am like, hey, what is this talking about? So let's just go with the flow of what comes up here, and then we'll clarify with the tarot, and then we're actually going to read this. I've been reading the last card for all the readings, so it'll be helpful, I think, to read the guidebook and see what they have to say here. But what's coming up with this card is perhaps it's time to end certain soul contracts that you have with people in your life. Perhaps what is required for you to transform is to end certain contracts with people, once you've learned the lesson, if you have people in your life that have, let's call them, have been teachers, right? Helping you learn lessons. What's going to help you end those contracts and move on from the challenges that they may have been presenting you is to learn the lesson, right? To kind of really see the lessons that you're meant to learn. And by focusing on how you can actually embody and integrate those lessons, it's going to enable you to end those contracts that may be contracts with teachers in your life, with people that might serve to bring you challenges and things that you are needing to learn during this lifetime. Like I said, we'll see what other messages come from the tarot. It also may be a time to be starting new contracts, right? To be thinking about what kinds of contracts do you want to be committing to, right? What do you want this next phase, this next chapter of your life to look like? What do you want to be committing yourself to, devoting yourself to? All right, let's see what the tarot has to add to our messages here. So, back to what to reflect on during this eclipse season. And as a reminder, we've got community. And I would say there's transformation here in this community card with the butterflies, and there's a rainbow. So kind of finding a rainbow at the end of a storm comes to mind. And I also love that there's, it's kind of a dark forest, but there's all this light coming through. So kind of finding a lightness through community could also be at play here. Let's see what the tarot has to add. Queen of Pentacles. Four of Swords. The Emperor. And the Knight of Pentacles. With the 7 Pentacles at the bottom of the deck. Okay, yeah. So, for some of you, I definitely think that you are being called to reflect on your current community. And what about your community is feeding you, right? What aspects of your community and your engagement with your community, the people in your community, etc., is worth your time, your energy, and your resources, right? This card is absolutely a card of reflection. It's a card of assessment, of assessing what it is that you want to put your time, energy, and resources into, and what's not really giving back to you, what's not really worth your time, energy, and resources. So, how does that come up for you with regard to your community? Or with regard to community, right? If you're looking for community, you're wanting to find community, you know, you want to be reflecting on what is it that I want from my community? What would feel good? Like what would a supportive community feel like? What would that look like, right? How would I want to be engaged in that? What kind of what would I be wanting to put into the community? What would I be wanting to get out of the community? With the Queen of Pentacles here, there's a need to ground yourself, right? By grounding yourself, that's going to enable you to do some reflection that's really going to serve you, right? The Queen of Pentacles, also patience. Both of these cards speak to a need for patience. Okay, so if the situation is such that you are wanting to find community, there's a need for grounding, there's a need for patience, there's a need for reflecting on what it is that you want out of your community. There's also a need to trust in yourself. The Queen of Pentacles can have whatever she desires, and she knows it, and she has the utmost confidence that it's inevitable, that she will receive whatever it is that she desires. She's the Queen of Pentacles. She's the queen of the material realm. So embodying the Queen of Pentacles would be helpful for you at this time, right? She also is very nurturing. She's very loving. So really, you're being encouraged to ground yourself, to be patient with yourself and your situation, to nurture yourself and be kind to yourself, and to, you know, you also might want to get out into nature. That could even be a way for you to connect with community, is to get out into nature somehow. Also, you're being called to take time out for rest, take time out to do any kind of healing that is needed. You know, if you're looking for community, for example, or even if you're part of a community already, and you're wanting more out of your community, or you're wanting to find community, what would help you is to focus on your own healing, right? When we can tend to our own heart and tend to our own wounds and find that peace and quiet and kind of shut out the noise, you know, she's in a little nest, create that kind of little nest for yourself to be able to heal your heart in the way that it needs to be healed. That is going to allow you to attract more of what you want from your community. So reflecting on how can I create that nest for myself and create that space and that rest and that healing for myself that will help me connect with the kind of community I want. You also want to step into your power, right? I love that I didn't even realize. I mean, actually, this isn't, I was just going to say we have the King and Queen of Pentacles, but we don't. But we do have two very strong people here, right? We have the Queen of Pentacles, who is at the top of her game in terms of like being, having mastered really the material realm from, in terms of representing the divine feminine aspect of that. And then we have the Emperor, who is, whoops, wrong one. We have the Emperor, which is a compilation of all of the kings. So he has mastery over all of the different realms. He has mastery over the material realm, the emotional realm, the mental realm, and the realm of fire and passion and inspiration and action. So, and look at how cool, calm, and collected he is, right? And he's holding that chess piece. So he's also very strategic. He takes the time to think through, like, what is going to be the best strategy moving forward. So again, that is another thing to be reflecting on here with regard to your community, is being strategic and tactical as you contemplate, as you do your, whatever healing is needed, as you take the time out, as you ground yourself and nurture yourself through this process, but really like being strategic about how you can connect with the kind of community that you want to connect with. And again, this Knight of Pentacles speaks to patience, taking your time, being methodical, one step at a time, not being in a huge rush, right? Because if we're just kind of connecting with people for the sake of connecting with people, connecting with community for the sake of connecting with community, and just kind of rushing into it, chances are maybe we're not going to be connecting with the people that we ultimately want to connect with. The Knight of Pentacles plants the seeds, waters the seeds, tends to the seeds in order to cultivate an abundant harvest that is going to give back to him for the long run. So he has the long term in mind. All right, let's look next. Whoopsie. Let's look next at how to receive the downloads, how to receive the wisdom that is trying to find you here during eclipse season. You are being encouraged to step into the hunter and track down your fears and your desires. Let's see what else we've got from the tarot. What other messages do we have about this from the tarot? Okie dokie. We've got the Ten of Pentacles, the Queen of Swords, the Strength card, and the Devil, El Diablo. It's kind of funny. They kind of look like, I don't know, they remind me of each other a little bit, which is interesting. I mean, because if you think about it, well, let's just start with the Devil here. The Devil can represent, an attachment to, there's the identifying what the fears and desires are, and then there's also recognizing the attachment that you may have to fears and or desires, right? There's the need to be aware of any unhealthy attachments that we have. Any attachments that we have to things that ultimately don't serve us, that, some would say that are toxic, right? And this can be so many different kinds of things, right? Because we can be attached to a lot of different things. We can be attached to people, we can be attached to behaviors, we can be attached to thought patterns, we can be attached to substances, we can be attached to just, the list goes on and on. So what you're being asked to do here, as you are identifying your fears, as you are identifying your desires, is to also be aware of what kinds of attachments you may have to things that ultimately don't serve you, and how can you detach from the things that ultimately are not serving you, right? That would enable you to open yourself up to receiving the wisdom, the guidance that's going to move you towards what you want, to what you desire, that's healthy, that's good for you, that benefits you in the long term. Also important is to focus on what the Ten of Pentacles represents here, which is, what is the legacy that you want to leave behind? What is a life well lived? What does that look like? What are the different components that make up a life well lived, right? If you were to get to the end of your life and look back, what would you like to see as far as kind of like a life review? Like, what would that life look like? So this can actually contribute to your ability to move towards what it is that the life that you want to build, the life that you want to have, the life that you want to create, right? By focusing on what makes up that life. What are the different components that make up that life? Another thing that comes to mind with the Ten of Pentacles is family, right? And I went with how I usually interpret this Ten of Pentacles, but I was also kind of thinking about the shadow side of the Ten of Pentacles, which can be familial patterns, ancestral patterns, because I'm thinking about the identifying your fears. And so in addition to kind of focusing on what legacy you want to leave behind, and what would bring meaning to your life, what kind of things you'd like to put in place that aren't already there, that would encompass a life well lived, what kinds of familiar patterns may still exist here that feed those fears, right? That are the source of those fears that you're trying to identify, or that are the source of those unhealthy attachments that we talked about with the devil. And here's, the Queen of Swords, who really can clearly see all of these things, right? She sees the truth of things. She sees the truth clearly, right? Like, she can see, like, all right, what's been getting in my way? What do I need to cut out of my life, right? The Queen of Swords can really help you with that, because she's been through so much that she has learned a tremendous amount from her experiences, and they have been challenging experiences. So she's been through it, and she has made it through in order to really see the truth of so many things. And she has that clear focus on her own life and what needs to be cut out, and what she wants to bring more of into her life, if that sentence made sense. A little bit of caution with the Queen of Swords is, she's got her heart kind of compartmentalized here, like locked up. So, you want to be wary of being too, what's the word I'm looking for? You want to have a balance, right? You want to make sure that your heart is coming into play in terms of how you're moving forward, and you don't want to cut out too much, right? You don't want to like cut off your nose to spite your face, right? You don't want to protect your heart too much from life, right? So that's just a cautionary thing, because the Queen of Swords can err on the side of kind of being a little icy, a little too cold, a little too in her head, right? She's a little too like having her standards so high that she's not allowing for she's not really living fully, I guess is the way to put it. So that's just something to be aware of, to make sure that you are bringing your heart into things, that you're not kind of shutting off or shutting down your heart. The Strength card here really speaks to a lot of what we've been talking about in terms of like really becoming aware of the whole of you, right? And really accepting all parts of you, right? Loving and accepting all parts of you. The Strength card can speak to knowing thyself, right? Knowing your fears, knowing your desires, knowing the parts of yourself that are working for you, knowing the parts of yourself that may kind of try to sabotage you, or, you know, in a way that's trying to protect you, but really, or criticize you, or, you know, it's kind of being aware of and accepting both your light and your shadow side. And the more awareness we have of our shadow side, the more we can work with our shadow, right? And integrate that so that we are operating from a place of strength. So that is something that you're being called to do as you track down your fears and your desires as part of this process, in order to allow for the wisdom that is available to you and wants to find you. And I think by doing this work here, you are going to find that you gain a new perspective on things and gain new insights that are really going to serve you. Speaking of new insights, we've got how to look after yourself next, the giraffe spirit, seeing the bigger picture, right? Getting a new perspective on things. We've got the Eight of Cups, the Knight of Wands, the Ace of Wands, oh, too many. And the Two of Swords. At the bottom of the deck, we've got the Knight of Cups. Okay, so let's start with the Knight of Cups. What's going to help you see the big picture and gain a new perspective here is kind of what we were just talking about with the Queen of Swords. There's a call, there's a need, there's an importance to getting into your heart space, to following your heart, right? Getting into your heart space and allowing your heart to actually lead you and guide the way here. By doing so, it's going to become very clear to you what isn't really working for you anymore, what isn't feeding you emotionally, and what it's time to kind of walk away from. The Eight of Cups, as you can see, signifies walking away from something that really isn't feeding you emotionally anymore. It may have been something that you loved at one time, but now you're finding like, this isn't really doing it for me anymore, right? And so this person is choosing to walk away from that and walk towards the sun, walk towards her happiness, right? To follow her heart and seek something else, right? The Eight of Cups is moving away from something that's not fulfilling anymore towards wish fulfillment, the Nine of Cups, right? Towards that sun, towards that happiness. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily slamming the door shut on something, that you're never going to go back to that. But for now, you're like, yeah, I need to move away from that for now, because I want to explore what else is out there. And what can guide you and lead you, in addition to your heart, is your passion, your fire, your inspiration. And really, you're like stepping into your authenticity. Like, what is, you know, we are each a unique expression of the divine. And so what is your unique expression? What is your purpose? What lights you up, right? The Knight of Wands is, you know, has fun. It's, you know, there's a horse in the background. So they are, you know, expressing their freedom. They are expressing who they are. They are marching to the beat of their own drum, and they are moving towards their passion. Like, they are like going for it. So keeping all of these things in mind, right? What is it that I'm ready to kind of leave behind, at least for right now so that I can explore like what I'm feeling inspired and passionate about, right? The Ace of Wands. What is sparking that joy within me? What is inspiring me? What do I want to explore further? It's interesting that we have the Two of Swords here, because it may not be a time to decide on anything. Yeah. You're in an exploratory, like you're being encouraged to explore, right? To step back, to step away from something, to kind of follow your passion and see where it takes you, to, yeah, follow your inspiration, to explore, right? I can't say that's really the key word here, without necessarily landing on anything or feeling pushed to land on anything or choose anything until you have clarity, right? Because the Two of Swords indicates that you don't necessarily have clarity right now, that you're not really sure kind of what you want to do exactly, but by following your passion, the Ace of Swords, and doing some exploring, right? Going after, not going after, but kind of doing some exploring, right? Letting yourself kind of explore different passions of yours, leaving behind the things that don't really feel great anymore. It's going to enable you to get a different vantage point, to get a bigger picture, to have a broader perspective that's going to ultimately help you gain clarity that you may not have right now. It's funny because some people see this as like the crows are kind of squawking at her and tangling her up, but she's got like I feel like she's kind of smiling, and I feel like the crows are actually helping her get untangled, right? So by tuning into spirit, tuning into the messages that you're receiving, relaxing, not like, oh, I gotta get out of this situation, oh, like pushing, efforting, forcing, but just relaxing and being calm and allowing for clarity to be revealed to you by tuning into the messages that you're receiving from spirit. You also have a scale here, so kind of operating from a place of balance. Things will become clear. Clarity will emerge. All right. What needs to change? We've got bring love into the situation. Right? We have the, oh, that was under the deck. Yeah, so bringing love into situation is going to, is the change that is needed here, right? Especially, right, that reminds me of that, the Queen of Swords, right? Like, you want to uncage your heart here, right? You want to get into your heart space and allow yourself to open up to your heart's desires, I'm hearing. We've got the Magician, the Lovers, the Two of Wands, and the Star. Beautiful. Six of Cups at the bottom of the deck here. All right, so I'm going to start with the Six of Cups. The Six of Cups speaks to the need to recognize, acknowledge, and tend to the needs of the inner child, right? And right there, you know, I'm just hearing like that child needs your love. That child needs to feel loved. That child needs to experience love, to feel love, to be loved, to love. That's what the inner child is calling for, yearning for, I'm hearing. We've got the Magician here. And the Magician is focused on creating what he wants. Don't worry about gender. The Magician recognizes that they have access to all of the resources needed to have the life they want, to create the life they want. So it's really important to utilize all of the resources that are available to you. And given that we have bring love into the situation, you may be utilizing some of the resources available to you, your mind. You may be using resources, but perhaps you're ignoring your heart and the power that your heart has to contribute to creating the life that you want. I'm drawn to the infinity symbol on the hood and the importance of really trusting, believing, knowing that anything is possible as long as you believe it, that there are infinite possibilities available to you. And here we have the Lovers. The Lovers, for me, is the need to make choices from a place of unconditional love and acceptance for yourself, for all of yourself, for all parts of yourself, right? So there's that bringing that love into the situation. It starts with ourselves. In order to be able to operate from a place of love, we need to love ourselves, all of ourselves, right? And that's that tending to that inner child and seeing the parts of ourselves that maybe we haven't shown the love that's been needed, and to really focus on making that change, showing all parts of ourselves the love that they deserve, right? Because all parts of ourselves deserve and need that love, that unconditional love and acceptance. And when we love and accept ourselves unconditionally, we make much better choices for ourselves. So, what's needed here is taking that love, bringing that love into the situation, operating from a place of love, getting into our heart, loving ourselves unconditionally, accepting ourselves unconditionally, and then focusing on what is it that we want to be doing next? What is the world we want to be creating for ourselves? What is the world we want to be living in? What is inspiring us? That the person in the Two of Wands is holding that Ace of Wands, that inspiration, that potential to really realize some kind of new world for themselves that's based on their passion, on their fire, on their inspiration. And the Two of Wands is really encouraging you to focus on what it is, like what is that world, right? What is that world that you want to be building for yourself, creating for yourself, living in? And how can you start moving yourself in that direction? What kinds of steps can you be taking? What kind of plan can you be putting into place in order to get yourself from here to there? And here again, we come to the star, not that we've been to the star, but here again with the star, we come to the importance of believing that anything is possible, believing in your dreams, believing in yourself, and doing the necessary healing, right? Through that love and acceptance for yourself, doing that necessary healing that's going to enable us to open ourselves to realizing those dreams that we have, those desires that we have, letting go of the fears that get in our way, right? And using those desires and those dreams as our North Star, right? As our focal point in order to guide us towards, what it is that we want. Keeping your eye on the prize, right? So that as life is lifing around you, you're navigating it, you're moving through it, but you've got that destination clearly in mind, in focus. And that destination is based on that love and acceptance for yourself, right? So bringing that love into the situation. Okay, finally, we've got how to transform, covenant, sacred contract. Let's see what the tarot has to say, and then we'll read the book. To wrap up this reading for you, pile 3, I've really been enjoying these readings. I hope you have too. Whichever one, well, I hope you're enjoying pile 3, and if you've watched any of the other ones, I hope you've been enjoying those too and getting something out of it. Okay, what do we have here for how to transform? Well, we've got the moon. It is an eclipse after all, eclipse season, I mean. The 7 of Pentacles. That's funny, I thought I heard a cat growling, but it was a car outside because the cats are peacefully resting on the couch. 10 of Cups. And the King of Pentacles. I love it. At the bottom of the deck, we've got the 9 of Cups, right? Right? We're leaving behind what we're not feeling anymore so that we can explore and find wish fulfillment. Love it. Okay, so what I'm just hearing, I'm just focusing on that sacred contract card. As I told you, it's one of the cards that doesn't always, I'm just not totally clear on it sometimes, but just focusing on it right now, what I heard was, what contracts do you want to break? Are you ready to break or end? And what sacred contracts do you want to initiate now with yourself? And maybe with others, but really I think the focus is on what vow do you want to make to yourself right now? What sacred contract do you want to initiate now? What path do you want to move forward on? This is important in order to make the kinds of changes that are going to better your life and take you where you want to go. I think it's important to really be intentional about what you're ending and what you want to begin and where you're headed, right? That 2 of Wands. Where you're headed, and the 2 of Wands talks about kind of making a plan for how to get there, but first you have to know where you're going, right? What do you want to commit yourself to? What do you want to devote yourself to during this next chapter of your life? We've got the 7 of Pentacles here, right? So I think we had that earlier for you, right? So there's we had that with the community card, right? So there's a need to do some assessment. What kinds of things do you want to put your energy, your time, your resources into? And what doesn't really feed you? What are some things that maybe you did put your time, energy, and resources into from the past or in the past that really did not give much back, didn't really grow or help you grow or grow into much of anything, right? So when you're deciding what things you want to end and what things you want to begin, what things you want to commit to, it's important to take time to assess, what's worked in the past and what hasn't worked in the past, and how can that inform your path moving forward. With the moon here, obviously I feel like that is kind of speaking to the fact that we are going into eclipse season and that this whole reading is focused on eclipse season. But what the moon here is indicating is that when making these decisions about what to end and what to begin, it's really important to think about, I'm looking at the 2 dogs. And the 2 dogs in the moon reflect the kind of the wild dog, like the wolf, and the domesticated dog, right? And the wild dog or the wolf is the is the dog that is choosing to be authentic to themselves, whereas the domesticated dog is the dutiful dog, right? And their devotion is to their person or people, right? So the devotion of the wild dog is to themselves and to being their true selves, their authentic selves, being true to themselves. So the moon card often raises the issue of making that choice between your authentic self and your dutiful self. The moon also speaks to unknowns, right? And not knowing exactly what's before you. And that can bring up fears, right? And especially, right, if we're going towards our desires, right, as we talked about before, that can also bring up fears. So the moon is encouraging you to trust in yourself, trust in the process that you're going through, trust in what's happening, and really try to go with the flow, right? Allow yourself to go with the flow, tune into your intuition, not let fears cloud things, get in your way, limit you, stop you. Not let your emotions consume you, right? To kind of flow, allow your emotions to flow as well, and allow them to serve as a guide or a messenger for you versus being consumed by your emotions, right? If we allow ourselves to feel our emotions and to kind of understand where they're coming from and what they're trying to tell us, we can allow them to move through us, right? And receive that guidance and that message and act on that. So tapping into your intuition, allowing yourself to flow, allowing your emotions to flow, receiving the guidance of your emotions and receiving the guidance from your intuition, and really deciding whether you want to be true to yourself and your authentic self, or if it's more important for you to be your dutiful self. I mean, I think that the guidance is really to be true to yourself, right? But the choice is being presented as part of this transformation, this eclipse season, and what you're choosing to end and what you're choosing to commit to moving forward. Hopefully you're committing to your emotional fulfillment, right? And you're making the choices and you're setting your sights on what will be emotionally fulfilling to you, right? And what that looks like and what that feels like, right? That's an important factor in deciding what you want to commit to. And here again, we have that trust represented by the King of Pentacles, trust in self, confidence in self. We also have the grounding, right, that we had with the Queen of Pentacles earlier, right? He is cool, calm, and collected. He is grounded. He has the Midas touch. He knows that whatever he does is going to be successful, right? He also has loyal people around him. Well, he has a loyal dog around him, but I think it also speaks to kind of being around people that are show you loyalty, that aren't, doing things that aren't disloyal to you. You know what I mean? And and he's so relaxed and chill. So the message of the King of Pentacles is really encouragement to try to embody the King of Pentacles as you are deciding what to end and what to invest your time and energy into, what to commit to moving forward beyond this eclipse season. All right, let's read the Covenant Sacred Contract and see what that says. It's number 7. Commitment, sacred contract, the greater good. You are being invited now by the universe to enter into a sacred contract. The covenant card may also be a call to recognize that an ancient agreement you made with spirit needs to be renewed or canceled and torn up. Is an opportunity showing up right now that is full of promise, but you are unable to sign and seal the deal and commit to it? The reason is that it needs to be elevated to a sacred covenant. A covenant must be founded on the truth, Queen of Swords. Not your truth or his truth or her truth, but a greater truth. Truth that takes the destiny of all into account. The covenant is not about your agenda only. Spirit must be invited to come to the table as guarantor of the good faith of all, and to ensure that the direction you are embarking in will be for the greater good. It's important that you understand what you're signing up for. Be sure to read the fine print so as not to commit to something you will soon regret or that will compromise your integrity. Do not hesitate to put all your own cards on the table so that your motives and desires are transparent and nothing is left in darkness. When shadow elements remain hidden, the covenant breaks down and becomes a contract with an unspoken dark side that is inevitably fulfilled. Alrighty. No wonder I can't remember that one. I mean, I think it definitely brings in a lot of what we talked about here, right? The need for integration of the shadow, right? And kind of recognizing that and acknowledging that so that it's not creating harm or damage, right? And yeah, I think, you know, ultimately when we come from a place of love and acceptance for ourselves, we are ultimately coming from a place that is for the highest good, right? And when we can kind of gain a bigger perspective, broader perspective, see things kind of rise above the fray, we can also do things and make choices that are really serving the greater good. All right, pile 3. I hope that was helpful. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm sending you lots of love. Take good care of yourself this eclipse season, and I'll see you next time. Bye.